Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah, everybody. Really want to welcome you all and thank you all for attending this webinar, one of the many webinars in the Oak Tree Institute webinar series. If you don't know who Oak Tree Institute is, first and foremost, I'm the executive director of Oak Tree. My name is Brother Rami Kawas. I have the honor of leading a wonderful nonprofit organization that is very focused on leadership and organizational development for the Muslim community. We're an organization whose mission is really serving Muslim leaders across various institutions, from local-based communities to large nonprofit organizations. We've worked with hundreds of different organizations across the Muslim community. We specialize in practices, best practices, and thought leadership and training specifically to the Muslim community, things that can really elevate not just the work that we do, but the impact that all our institutions are trying to make. And alhamdulillah, we've had the privilege again in the past few years of working with over 250 different organizations across the country. As you can see, many folks here, we had over 75 people registered for this webinar, over 30 different organizations that signed up. So we're excited to be able to really dive into, I think what attracted everybody was the importance of the topic that we're doing this month. And alhamdulillah, this is a webinar series that we have every single month focused for our leadership in the Muslim community. This month's webinar, I think it had a very catchy title, hence there was a lot of energy behind it, but it's called "That's a Big Loss: Sustaining Our Best Talent in Muslim Institutions." It's a very important, hefty subject. I think it's a subject that we've felt a lot of challenges around lately in Muslim institutions. Definitely, as we'll talk about, the greater macro landscape of employee and talent retention is very challenging today. And of course, that has seeped down to our community and our institutions. And we want to have a short conversation with all of you on why is the challenge there? And of course, what can we do about some of those challenges? Again, before we dive into the really important topic, we have a lot of folks on, and I'm sure a lot of people will be attending. So if you just logged on, we're going to ask you to rename yourself, of course, add your first and last name to the Zoom account. But if you can, please include the nonprofit that you're representing today. So put right next to your name the organization that you're a part of or that you're representing. We will have some breakout rooms. You're going to be communicating and networking with a number of folks during the webinar today. So we definitely want folks to know where you're coming from and be proud of the institution that you're representing. I'll give everybody a few seconds to rename, to change their name on their Zoom account. In the meantime, yes, for those that are asking, the passcode is Oak Tree, all lowercase letters, if you're having any hard time getting into the Zoom account. Okay, mashallah. And again, a welcome to the 30 individuals on the webinar. Welcome. Okay, the second thing I'm going to ask you to do in the chat window, we definitely want you to have the chat window open today, and we want it to be vibrant conversations happening there. If you can, please type into the chat window where you are located and how long you've been in nonprofit work. If it's in the Muslim community or greater nonprofit work, we'd love to know where you're located and how long you've been in community work, in nonprofit work. So Brother Shahid, welcome from ICNA Relief. Brother Qais, mashallah, all the way from Ontario, and he's been in nonprofit work for over 3 years. Brother Qais, if you can please add the organization that you're representing next to your name, we'd love that. Dr. Ambar has been a 1.5 years in work, and he's from Seattle, if I remember correctly. Brother Abdullah, welcome. Mass Dallas in the house, 2 years in nonprofit work, mashallah. Sister Dana in Pennsylvania, 12 years in the nonprofit space. Representing ICNA Relief, mashallah, welcome. Brother Ahmed, all the way out in Santa Clara, is representing the Ihsan Foundation. He's been in nonprofit work since 1996. Mashallah, a lot of names coming in. So if I miss you, I encourage you all to mashallah read up about some of the tremendous leaders on the call and to get to know them and obviously where they're located. Brother Shahid is in Dallas. Brother Qais is representing the London Islamic School. Zaman Marwat is logging on from New York. Welcome. He's been in nonprofit work for 12 years. Welcome, Imam. MashaAllah. I'll give everybody another few seconds just to add into the chat. Again, you changed your name and you're just kind of telling us a little bit about yourself in the chat. A wonderful opportunity to meet. We have the privilege of working with many tremendous Muslim leaders and a great opportunity for you all to get to know one another. MashaAllah, Brother Ayman, 15 years in the Chicagoland area, representing the Islamic Center of Naperville. Welcome. All right. So with that said, and again, really a pleasure to connect with you all. And I think it's going to be a pleasure for you all to connect with one another here in a few minutes. But the reason why we're all here is to talk about what is currently happening in the employee retention landscape. You know, the world post-COVID in a post-pandemic work environment, you know, it's very much changed. And what I wanted to do before we talk about the Muslim community and Muslim institutions, and I know many of us see some of the challenges there, I wanted us just to take a step back and understand what's happening at the macro level. A lot has happened in the past few years when it comes to talent management. And that landscape has shifted tremendously. And the adjustments across all sectors, across all industries, has really been felt. First and foremost, at the very, very macro level, I think we have all heard of the term the Great Resignation. This has been a phenomenon really post-COVID and through the pandemic of this concept of folks for the first time ever, and maybe some of them with the renewed sense of the ease of interviewing or changing jobs and remote work, there was this breakthrough that was made through the pandemic, the way work shifted, that folks started to think about leaving their jobs. And those folks were record numbers. So 2021 was a record-breaking year of folks leaving their jobs, and 2022 broke that record. So we had over 50 million people that quit their jobs in 2022. And that was, again, a second consecutive record-breaking year of folks that resigned from their employment. We saw that the landscape is telling us that the employee turnover forecast is going to be even higher. Like it's estimated to be even 50 to 75% than what companies were experiencing before the pandemic. Right? So there's this absolute shift in the way talent is being managed and employees are interacting with employers that we've seen at a very macro level. Now, Gartner is also saying that not only are people switching roles, it's also 18% harder for folks. I just want to make sure everybody sees me and hears me.
We can see you and hear you.
Okay. There's been an 18%, it's 18% longer than pre-pandemic for you to fill a role as well. So it's not just there's a lot of mobility, which is obviously happening, but also it's getting harder to get people to fill roles once they're vacant. And Gallup recently, they just released a study that said that 50% of US employees are open to leaving their current organizations, their current jobs. So 50%, nearly 1 in 2 employees are open to the opportunity of leaving their employment, their current employment. So again, at the macro level, it's really a very different landscape of talent management. And we've got to be very mindful of that, not obviously for our Muslim institutions, but even for kind of the greater ethos of what's happening in the society. Now, when it comes to nonprofits specifically, I try to pull up the data, particularly from the Society of Human Resource Management, that was specific to nonprofits, because really, actually, nonprofits nonprofit employment is about 10% of the overall workforce, right? So 10% work within nonprofits, of course, Muslim nonprofits and other nonprofits. But the challenges of nonprofits are also across the sector. So SHRM, they say that the report says that voluntary turnover for nonprofits is at around 19%, right? Which is one of the higher industries of the overall labor market. So nonprofits just have had this greater sense of turnover, particularly post-pandemic. Nearly 1 out of every, again, 10% of employees are in the nonprofit space. But really the reasons behind their leaving are they feel like they're overworked, they're under-resourced, and they're disengaged. And of course, we'll talk about a lot of these challenges, but the reality is many of our institutions, they have the same, we hear the same sentiments. The overworked piece, the burnout piece, the disengaged piece, that leads to high number of turnovers, especially, again, to the vulnerable nonprofit organizations. And finally, leaders in particular, leaders in nonprofits, nearly 60% of them, they feel more burnout than the rest of the staff. And at the end of the day, 60% report that they feel used up every single day at the end of the workday. And that's a DDI report on the leadership forecast. So again, I think what we're seeing at a macro level is the entire space has changed in terms of talent retention and employee retention. The nonprofit sector particularly has gotten hit, given we're undersourced, we're overworked, it's very hard work. And then I think what we're seeing at Oak Tree Institute, working with dozens and dozens and dozens of Muslim organizations, and inshallah, we're hoping to do more research just on Muslim organizations. These are the things that we've qualitatively heard. And I'm going to actually take a poll from everybody here, but this is what we've heard of late. We've heard of folks saying that, hey, I wanted to stay at that organization, but there was no growth for me. We've heard individuals, leaders that have recently kind of left the nonprofit space, particularly in the Muslim community, saying, I was completely burnt out. We've heard CEOs, Imams, youth directors, managers, different executive directors saying, hey, look, I wanted to do something meaningful for my community, but it didn't work out with that masjid, with that organization, with that institution. Some people are saying, look, the culture was toxic. I couldn't stay there because of the culture. And again, these are specific quotes that we've kind of noted, of course, not putting names or names to the quotes, but folks saying like, hey, look, I left that organization because it couldn't sustain my family. I couldn't sustain myself there. So I want to kind of pause here and I want to take a poll with you all. And the first poll is really about, this exact question. Has someone in your organization left recently that made you say, wow, that's a big loss? So I want you to just tell us if that has happened to you lately. Has someone from your organization or an institution that you're a part of recently, left, and you had this feeling, even if you didn't say it out loud, like, wow, that was a big loss. So let us know. And of course, I'll give everybody a minute just to take the poll. 13 out of the 32 of you have voted, so I'll give everybody just a few minutes. Actually, stop sharing so that we can see the results. So 62% of you have voted. I'll give another 30 seconds for everybody to vote. Has someone from your organization left recently that made you say, wow, that's a big loss? Yeah, that's the title of the webinar, by the way. Okay. 10 more seconds. Give everybody the opportunity to vote. Okay, the overwhelming majority of you voted. I'm going to end the poll and share with you the results. Does everybody see the results to the poll? Give me a thumbs up if you do. Okay. So we've got out of the 32 folks in here, about 36% of you said yes. Someone recently has left our organization. It made us say, wow, that was a big loss. The other 36 of you, so other 9 said yes, that it's happened within the past few years. So yes, we felt this wave of losing people that were significant, that were important to our organization, that were meaningful to what we were trying to do as an institution. So again, a strong majority. We have 20% said no, that they haven't had a big loss. MashaAllah, that's really good. And alhamdulillah, may Allah bless you and your organization, your community. And then we have about 2 of you that said that you're not sure. So again, this is obviously, so we're all, as you can see here, we've all felt this. Like we're all have felt some kind of, majority of us have felt some kind of major seismic shift in someone moving on or something changing. And it wasn't just someone just moved on, but it was like the feeling of, wow, we really lost someone that was very important to the work of our community, of our services, of our programs, of our relief initiative, advocacy work, whatever it might be. So the question is why? Why is this happening? Okay, why is this happening? So I'm going to open a second poll, and I want you to tell me the same individual that you thought about, or individuals that you know have kind of left your institution. What do you think are some of the factors that led them to leaving? And particularly here, we're talking about the staff. What were some of the factors that you believe or you understood that caused them to leave? So I want, again, I'll give everybody a few minutes here to vote. What do you think was the factor? What was the why that they left? Okay. We have 12 people that have answered the poll, 14. $20 people.
Well, it is always helpful if we can vote more than 2 places, you know. So sometimes could be more than one reason.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, did I put other? I thought I put other there. Yeah, so if there's another reason that I didn't list, just place other. There's obviously many reasons. I'll tell you why I put these choices, but sure, there can be other reasons that I didn't place here.
No. I don't mean other reason. I mean, could be 2 choices, right? This is what I mean. Could be 2 reasons. Could be 2 reasons.
Yes, it could be. Yes, it could be for sure. And by the way, you can vote for two choices, Brother Arshad.
No, I think it don't allow. I think it is not allowing.
It should.
Yeah,
it should allow you to vote for more than one choice here.
Yes, it does allow multiple choices. Yes.
So, Brother Arshad, put both reasons, please.
My mistake.
No problem. No problem. So why again, why is this happening? Why is this high turnover? Why was there a recent big loss that you've heard of in the Muslim institution, in a Muslim nonprofit? I want you to share the reason of the why. And again, you might not know for sure, but maybe an assumption or maybe in your opinion.
But there is no further window for others. If you think there is other reason, it should have had a window where we could leave that comment or that particular reason, which we don't see it listed above.
We're gonna talk about it right now, Brother Shah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna close the poll in 5 seconds. So if you haven't voted, please vote. Okay. All right, I'm going to share the results. and I will go through them. And I'd love to hear from you all why you chose some of the things that you chose. Maybe give a little bit of the the context behind that. So the leading vote getter was pay and benefits. So about 48% of you believe that the folks that left that were really meaningful to your organization, they left because of pay and benefits. The second leading vote getter in this group was the organization's culture, the culture that was within the institution. Then the leading vote getter after that was leadership, work-life balance, advancement or development opportunities, personal reasons, or other. So now I would love for you all to come off of mute. So tell me a little bit around why you think these are the results that we have. That a majority of folks have had a big loss, and some of the context behind that has been some of these factors. Anyone want to come off of mute and share some of the context to why they voted the way they did?
Yes, I can. So Shahid Bajwa.
Go ahead, Brother Shahid.
Yes, I opted for a number of things, but one thing which I would emphasize, it's like a positive thing, advancement or developmental opportunities. Some people, we had some people that we felt that probably there, and there's a recent actually a brother, he had to quit for a wonderful job. So I think that has a lot of to do. Of course, pay and benefit is a common thing with most of the Muslim nonprofits. And then personal reasons, work-life balance, of course. I opted all. I do not agree that the organization's culture in Iqna Relief is toxic. It is the other way around. Maybe some people would feel, or they would have felt while they were thinking to quit, but I don't agree with that. But yes, there are other things. Leadership, I did point out, because that does not mean that the leadership was not capable. It was that sometimes you have a disagreement with the leadership. You have to agree to disagree. But the leadership is the one, or the one who leads the organization, and some of the senior people may not necessarily agree with that. Sure. So that is also one reason a person would part ways, but not in the negative sense. I mean, yes, there can always be better opportunities. Thank you.
Sure. Jazakallah khair, Brother Shahid. Wonderful. I'll have a few more folks. Yes, please raise your hand if you'd like to comment. And of course, mashallah, I appreciate everybody's vulnerability and honesty talking about their institution. No, you don't need to disclose anything specific about your org per se. We are just trying to capture kind of the landscape of the entire Muslim space. But jazakallah khairan. Brother Abdullah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm honestly going to talk about leadership. The leadership at Mass Dallas is great. However, the reason why I chose leadership was because the person that we brought in as a youth director had a different philosophy or different approach than the leadership had envisioned. So there was always this conflict that the leadership wanted to do it in a certain way, but that brother had his own vision. He had his own philosophy. So at the end of the day, they realized that they couldn't reach an agreement. So the brother decided to part ways. So yeah, sometimes the leadership may have their own vision. They may oppose change for their own reasons. They could be justifiable. But sometimes they may, in some cases, they can be a barrier to change that might be necessary in some cases. So that's what I've seen from my experience.
Yeah, well said, mashallah, Abdullah, for sure. And we've heard this a lot as well, this alignment between leadership, particularly, I think in many community institutions, centers, mosques, the leadership in that realm is the board, typically a group of individuals, their alignment with that leader or that staff member. Do they see things? Do they see the expectation, the work, the direction in alignment? So you're absolutely right. That leadership can be, the leadership factor can be very wide. It can be many various factors of the why that leads to the turnover. A few comments in the chat. Someone mentioned sometimes the leadership is out of touch with the staff. So if there's not enough of a connection between leadership and the staff, that creates kind of this disengagement. Not valuing talent enough was another something else someone said. Unfair leadership is the #1 cause of culture of any organization. Brother Osmani, do you care to just to give a little bit of round why you added that as the main factor in your opinion? Okay. If he can't come off of mute, no problem, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khair for the comment. Again, I want to dive into this why just a little bit. So I want to actually get into some breakout rooms and dig a little bit deeper about the solutions. But before we do that, I want to just show you what Gallup said. So those factors that we put down, they're actually research-based factors. And Gallup just again produced a massive research result on this concept of what causes turnover, what has caused this latest wave, particularly last year's massive amounts of turnover. Why are staff leaving their employment? And these are the 4 reasons that they articulate are the highest leading causes, factors.
There are actually 5.
Behind, yeah. So yes, there's 5, but there's a tie for 4. Jazakallah khair, Brother Shahid. So the five reasons, and the last 2 are tied, both equally. I believe they were both 24% equally. The first one is engagement and culture. So employee engagement, folks felt like they were disengaged, they were not engaged enough. And the culture of the organization, we'll talk, it's very broad right now. There's factors that they list underneath that. We'll talk about them later. But the culture and the engagement was the #1 reason. The second was well-being and work-life balance, right? This idea of burnout and attrition and really unable to manage all the various expectations. And that was taking effect on, again, their emotional, mental well-being. The third is pay and benefits, which is actually, for sure, as Muslim organizations, that's a very big challenge for us, for sure. But actually, it's a challenge with inflation, and obviously the past few years, with as we see kind of inflation growing, the income rates have not met those needs, and so folks have felt the need to transfer, to move on, to go somewhere else to find better pay and benefits. That's been a big factor. And then the last 2, they're again tied, is a manager or leader, or an advancement in the advancement, development, or career opportunities, right? So again, you see that these are some of the same factors. Some of the ones that we listed for our institutions are some of the ones, even again, across the industry, these are the same challenges that everybody's dealing with when it comes to talent retention. So the question is, how do we solve this? What do we do? How do we find a solution for our organizations? That's the main question. So what I would love for us to do right now is I would love for us to go to breakout rooms and discuss in small groups, what is the solution for organizations in the Muslim nonprofit space? What do we do? There's so much happening around us, so many challenges. What are some of the solutions? What should we be doing as institutions more strategically, more thoughtfully, to be able to retain and sustain our best staff? So what should we do? That's the question. Again, focus on your Muslim organizations, please. I'm sure maybe at work you're dealing with some of these challenges. Let's leave the professional life out of this. This is really, or maybe you're working professionally for a Muslim organization. That's fine, of course. But we want to address how can Muslim institutions solve this major challenge. I'm going to send everybody to breakout rooms. You're going to have, of course, a short period of time. We're going to just, we're going to give you all about 7 minutes. It'll be small groups, inshallah ta'ala. I'd love for you to talk to folks about what you think are some of the solutions to sustaining the talent in Muslim organizations. All right, so here we go. I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. If you can please go to your rooms, introduce one another, and try to think of some of the solutions to this big challenge that we're facing. Bismillah. Rooms are open. I will come around inshallah ta'ala and hear your conversations. Does everybody see their rooms open? Okay, good. MashaAllah, people are heading to their breakout rooms. If you're having any troubles, let us know. We can help you out with it. Right.
We know what room to go to.
Brother Zaman, Imam Zaman, you should see it pop up on your Zoom app. It should tell you to enter into breakout room. It should be on the right-hand side. Is anybody else having trouble getting to their room? Brother Munir, Brother Yusuf, Brother Osmani. Okay, mashallah. Dr. Ambar. Does anybody having any challenges getting into their rooms?
Rami, is there anybody that's not assigned a room?
Brother Hamad, I think Brother Hamad, welcome, just joined. I'm going to put Brother Hamad in a room.
Also, if you can announce what the question was, I think people might forget.
I am going to do that.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody's in. All right, Zawad, if you can help everybody out while I bounce around, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Mashallah, it sounded like you all were having some really wonderful conversations. Jazakallah khairan for everybody's engagement, and your passion was showing up in some of the groups, mashallah. I wanted us to have some time just to be able to speak as a larger group on some of the solutions that we discussed. And I would love for everybody to do that. So let's have everybody share in their chat window. What was the key solution that your group talked about? What was kind of the one critical solution that you took away from your group, your breakout room, it was really critical for sustaining talent for Muslim organizations? Just type them into the chat window, and I'll ask a few of you to come off of mute, inshallah ta'ala, and share a little bit around why that was the choice that you guys made. So give everybody a moment to type the solution that they took away from their breakout room. Okay, I'll start reading some of the ones that are coming in. So Muslim Sister Ghazal, organizations need to become more professional. They need to have a better vision, particularly at the leadership level. Training and professional development is important to motivate staff and volunteers. Brother Hamid, that's a very good call out. Professional development, putting the right people in the right place, so the right skills to the right positions. That's a really good one, Sister Osmani. Educating and informing donors about the necessity of the portion of donation money and contributions for staff. Okay, so that's a little bit more focused on like the importance of investing in staff more. Good, Abdullah. better benefits, improved job descriptions, better engagement, appreciation with accountability, improved pay and benefits, mashallah, again, sensitivity training to others. That's an interesting one. Brother Qais, can you come off of mute and share yours? Mashallah, it's a long list. I'd love for a few folks to share out loud.
Yeah, for sure, Jazakallah khairan. So my group was Brother Arshad, I believe, and Sister Ola. I want to give them credit. So that was my group. So there were two solutions we spoke about. One of them was regarding finances. And we agreed that finances are always an issue within Muslim organizations. And a good solution, at least temporarily, would be for leaders to be open to discussion when it comes to talking about paying employees. Employees typically don't feel comfortable, at least with my own experience, talking about payment. So employers and leaders should open that door to that conversation without having the employees to ask. And employers should take into consideration about a staff's finance situation and so forth, because every employee has a different circumstance. I know within our community, we literally have Imams, Hamdan, who are doctors. So they're good. They don't ask for a single penny. But the other hand, there's some people who do a lot for our community, but they're going through a dire situation. So it's like they would need the finance more than someone else. But these organizations, they need to like cater to people based off the situation, right? It's like we're a team effort. Not everyone has to be financially compensated. Some people can, alhamdulillah, Allah bless them, and was able to financially provide and take care of them through different ways. Some people can do that, it's great, but not everyone can do that. So as long as leaders take them into consideration, then I think we'll have, be able to take care of our organizations better. So that was the first solution.
MashaAllah. Outstanding. I appreciate it, Brother Qais. That's wonderful. Very, very good. Brother Ayman, ICN, again, wonderful kind of note. Can you come off of mute and share with us the solution that you guys talked about?
Yeah, so specifically from the ICN perspective, earlier in the year, and for those who don't know, ICN, it's a mosque. It's I would even call it a franchise or mosque. There are about 4 different Islamic centers that we have. Actually, the 4th one is coming up in 11, sort of within 11-mile radius. Serving close to about 11,000 people in the city of Naperville and Aurora. So fairly large base of Muslims that we cater to. And, we've been around for the past now 30 years. And in the past, I would say pre-pandemic and through the pandemic, we had a very large influx of new Muslims coming in and very diverse Muslim population. The challenge that we faced over the years is, the organization itself is run 95% by volunteers. So there are probably less than 5% staff. Majority are all volunteers, and people are very passionate. People are passionate about how they do things, what they do, and there's really no structure in place. It was just kind of through the inertia and the energy of the people, this large organization continues to move forward. And earlier this year, and it was leading to good things, but then also we were having growth issues in terms of, how can we optimize the way this organization runs? Also, we had similar issues that you mentioned, we've been discussing here, losing some of the talent, whether it's volunteers or staff. So earlier this year, we put in place, after a lot of thought and, I won't go into detail, but eventually we landed on a committee structure. So we have about 30, 35 different committees within the mosque, and they all report into the board. And having the structure in place has, at least so far, allowed us to create a process, a mechanism of bringing in new people, allowing for delegation of work, allowing of leaders to letting go of the control that they've had. It was all, sometimes people have been a committee chair for like 10 years, 15 years, and things have not been moving, right? So putting the structure in place has allowed us to grow the organization. So again, I don't want to go too many details, but
Jazakallah
that
khairan.
is sort of our
No.
way of yeah.
I love it, Brother Ayman. No, for sure. Like the concept of first, I think you talk about like setting the proper structures. And I think that's so critical to communication channels, to how we follow up, to how we coordinate. And then a part of that, it becomes like to that second part of how we delegate, how we make sure that the work is equally distributed as much as possible, right? We don't want, of course, one of the results of burnout, particularly we all know in our organizations is, everybody's a superhuman. Like, everybody has to be like, a sahabi or a wali, right? To like, do really extraordinary things all the time. And that causes a tremendous burnout. None of us are superhuman. So it's a wonderful point about that, mashallah. And again, a lot of other wonderful points, really a lot of really good solutions that a lot of people are talking to. And actually, I think my kind of takeaways, and I know we're kind of close to finishing. We're hoping to finish around 10:15 today Eastern. So we have about 15 minutes. I want to be mindful of the time. And I want to share again some of what we believe are some of the best practices that our institutions, specifically on, again, how do we keep our most dedicated, our most committed, our most passionate, our most zealous staff members. Like we're not just talking about, hey, we just want to keep anyone. We're talking about how do we keep the best of the best, because those are the ones that are really going to continue to shape our institutions and our communities, right? They're the ones that are going to continue to drive our work forward. So some of the strategies, and I think you guys broke them down really well. And yes, if you need to break for Salat, please, feel free to do that. But some of the things I kind of broke them down across the 3 levels. So the first talent retention strategy, particularly our best talent, our best imams, directors, managers, etc. How do we keep them around? So first, I think we've got to think about this from an institutional level. And I think a lot of the solutions that everybody was talking about, a lot of them fall into this category of like, hey, the organization needs to be doing something different, the institution itself. And really, there's kind of 4 main buckets, and there's a lot that we can discuss, but we think that institutions, Muslim nonprofits themselves, should be doing 4 critical things more effectively. Number 1, we've got to get the basics done right, okay? Like we shouldn't be at a time where someone isn't getting their pay on time. That should not exist in our institutions. Like someone didn't get the deposit, they're still waiting for their paycheck or their check. That should not happen. It should not happen that someone doesn't know how many days off they get a year, or who do they go to get those days off. We shouldn't be at a place where people don't know their job description or don't have a contract. Like we feel that if our institutions just had the foundational HR operations across payroll and across, benefits and across like some of these simple things, that actually puts you in well above probably the 50th percentile of effective Muslim nonprofits. Like, I think that it's really that simple at times based on what we hear. So much of the feedback is like, hey, we don't know how to talk about compensation, to Brother Qais's point earlier. Like, hey, nobody talks to us about compensation. Nobody talks to us about, is there an increase in pay year to year? Like, who do we go to? When do we talk about that? How do I talk about that? That's really important. Like, we need effective basics, or else like it's going to be the easiest thing, because it's so basic to our survival as humans, our psychology, is that if I don't feel like I can make it because I don't think my paycheck is going to be on time, or if I don't know if I could take time off for my daughter's graduation, we have a big problem in our institution. So we've got to make sure to do that. The second thing is we need to constantly have a pulse check on our staff. To Brother Ayman's point and Brother Wali's point, and many of the other points made in the groups, is that we don't check in enough with our staff, communicating with them quarterly, bi-yearly. Like, we don't want to wait until either there's a problem or once a year, maybe we talk to our staff. And this is across almost all the institutions, that there has to be more constant pulse checks, more one-on-ones, more coordinated, intentional time given to staff, better time where we can just talk about their performance, if they need help, if they need support. Like, we as an institution have to design that. That has to be a part of our prerequisite of how we manage our staff. It needs to be there. Number three, and this is actually in a lot of the new data, and I think it's really important for Muslim orgs more than even companies. Orgs now are being told to think creatively about opportunities of their employees. Like, hey, you have somebody here, go bring them cross-functionally to somewhere else because they have a similar skill set. I think that's actually more important for our organizations. Of course, we have, sometimes limited resources, definitely limited staff and availabilities and opportunities. So we've got to get creative. We've got to get creative, like take your, get a new position for this really important staff member. Like, hey, your imam, they've been an imam for a long time. It's time that they maybe move on to a more senior imam role. And they do some different responsibilities that are more strategically serving the community, even for imams, even for staff, even for managers, directors. Like, we've got to create opportunities for staff to grow. We've got to create opportunities to get the comment really well said. I think it was Dr. Ambar, get the right people in the right place with the right skills. You got to think creatively. And I think this is the last one that I want organizations to think about. There's always change in our organizations. If there's a board, boards change all the time. Staff, sometimes, there's a lot of turnover. A lot of strategies changing, maybe budget is changing, structure is changing. There's always so much change. And change actually causes a lot of anxiety. It causes a lot of the feeling like things are unstable. So we have to be really good as organizations. Again, this is at an institutional level of how we manage change. Communicate and over-communicate what's going to happen, why it's happening. What is what's the ripple effect? How each person is going to find their grounding. Hey, it's a new board coming in. Don't worry. Like, the succession plan is clear to the new board, or the documentation is clear, or like, we've got to be better at the change management process, or else, because there's a natural turnover in our work, in our sector, in our institutions, folks will leave because they feel that that's unstable for them. And that's something we got to be very mindful of. Anybody want to comment to any of these, or to share anything else that falls under what the organization should do bucket?
Yeah, I agree with the thoughts that you have. I think that the challenge is, and specifically talking about more volunteer-run organizations with volunteer leaders, where you have a mix of staff, few staff and majority of volunteers.
Yeah,
it's tough. Well, even so let's say, for example, we've got an admin and somebody in the communications team that is paid, and they're reporting into a manager that is a volunteer. And for whatever reason, that particular volunteer manager is not prioritizing their job compared to the staff member that's reporting to them, right? So I think there is that disconnect. And I think some of those best practices need to be shared and need to be explained to people, and because it leads to a lot of these issues that we are talking about here. And it's hard for organizations to grow and get to what you're referring to here.
Yeah,
the more folks in the leadership role are volunteers, and the paid staff is kind of the worker bees, that recipe doesn't work out too well, is what I'm noticing.
Yeah, very, it's an excellent point, Brother Ayman, particularly for the center masjid reality. I 100% agree. I think there are strategies to mitigate that, though, meaning like either an HR or a steering team that is solely dedicated to managing particularly critical staff, right? I think if we leave critical staff to one person, as an institution, we're kind of failing. It should be like a steering committee or a task force or an HR committee that more than one person is supporting or guiding or being there for, again, particularly for critical staff, right? Like we've got to have, kind of improved structures where we're, again, keeping the pulse of our staff consistently and making sure that we're checking in on them. Again, this is our best talent. So we should be at our best in managing them, essentially.
Yeah.
Great. It's a great point.
But how about like if there was, some of these, I would say a lot of these, specifically talking about the mosque operations, they're not very mature, right? I mean, the organizations themselves, those functions are not there. Those are critical functions of running organizations. Those functions are not mature enough. So I wonder if there was a organization that provides, an Islamic organization that provides shared services like HR and all those, the key critical marketing, those type of functions. I think that could be one option for some of these organizations who are not there yet, but they can use that as an interim or a stepping stone to building those functions within the organization, right?
Yeah, it's an excellent idea. And I think some of the consultative work that we do, we definitely sometimes encourage folks to outsource some of these components, particularly, as you mentioned, for like some of the masjid community-based centers. So you're absolutely right. I think we don't have anything that's like across the community, but I think every community needs to kind of like find short-term solutions for that. So it's a great call out. I want to get to the second layer of this, inshallah ta'ala. And again, I'd love to hear, we'll have some time at the end for some Q&A. But the second layer, so the institution solving this sustaining talent challenge, I think they have what we articulated kind of a clear focus. But now kind of you come a little bit lower, the leadership level, whatever level that is, if that's the direct one-on-one leadership or the manager, the director, whatever it might be, the leadership level also has a responsibility to sustain talent. As we saw in a lot of the data and research throughout the years, actually the direct manager or leader is as important of a person on sustaining somebody important in the organization than the institution itself. So this is really important for particularly our people leaders, our managers at any institution. And I think there's 4 critical areas I want to outline that I feel they go the longest way in sustaining our best talent. I think number 1, we have to be, as leaders, have a people-centric culture. We cannot focus on the stuff that gets done more than the people doing the work that needs to be done. Like we've got to be really people-centric. And that really means a lot of things. That means that I'm going to care about my people. I'm going to appreciate my people. Some of the things that people were talking about, right? We're going to be mindful of those micro connections. Like, are we meeting with this person? Are they, do they have peers that they're connecting with? Or is there a culture that we're creating that people feel like they belong and there's social connections and there's that work-life balance? Like we've got to be very mindful of taking care of our people. And that's really important. That's at the core of it. The second is then when we manage our people, it's got to be like heart-led management. It cannot be, even though, subhanAllah, we'll talk about, like, we want our employees to be dedicated and committed, and we want particularly our best, right? Our best employees, they're going to be selfless and they're going to sacrifice. We know that they wouldn't be particularly in Muslim nonprofits if they didn't. But even so, we need to lead with our heart. We need to manage with our heart. We need to show emotional intelligence. We need to communicate authentically to them. We need to, simple things like active listening, like employees feeling that they're heard is so much important. It's so important to leadership, that they feel like their voice is heard, that they feel like they're spoken to often, that they're communicated to, that they're cared about. Really, sometimes those basics from our leadership, the one-on-one leadership, that management, if you will, if it's heart-led, it goes a long way. At the same time, I think leadership has the burden of development. Now, of course, as an institution, I think there's a lot that can be had there. But a lot of times, like, we don't have the funds for development. Like, let's say, hey, our organization is not bringing in professional development training, or there's not a lot of opportunities. As a leader, working with your staff, whether, again, whatever it is, a board managing an important staff in a masjid, or if I'm a director managing other leaders, I have to make them understand that development is happening in the work. I've got to be a coach for them. I've got to kind of assign them things to their passions. I got to give them assignments that are maybe stretch assignments. I got to make them realize that the work that we're doing is also adding to their career, adding to their long-term development as a person. Like, I am focused on you. I care about your growth. That's a leadership. That's a leadership focus nowadays. And we have to be very intentional about speaking about it. And I think the last thing, but not least, of course, is that leaders and managers, they're the ones that bring balance and avoid burnout of staff, particularly important staff. So a board with an imam or an executive director, a manager with their staff members on the ground, you're the direct kind of capacity manager. And sometimes we've got to be really, again, we have what I always say, I always tell this to our team, is like, hey, we have seasons. We have seasons where everybody's going to work really hard, but at the end of that season, we're going to have time off. We're going to keep it relaxed and loose. And then there's times we got to kick it back up, and everybody's going to work really hard. And then I'm going to give everybody a day or give them a moment to hey, take 3 days off for Eid. Khalas, take 3 days off for Eid. Go enjoy it with your family, right? You worked hard. Those kind of things we have to manage directly. And so the leaders have to focus on, again, being people-centric, leading with their heart, making sure development is a part of the work, that people realize that, and we communicate that to them, and then that we support wellness and balance. It's our jobs to do that as leaders. Anybody want to reflect or share anything on this strategy? Go ahead, Akhi Najib, you had your hand up.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, when you mentioned that your employees, should get heard, I remember that I'm a trustee of a board at the masjid, but I'm by profession, I'm a physician. I remember once I had to meet with my CEO, and so I went in. So he took out a notepad, and as I was talking, he was starting to take notes. And once the meeting was done, I walked out. And of course, whatever we talked, nothing much happened out of it. And I was sure that as soon as I walked out, he would have torn that paper and threw it away. But at that time, it made me feel good that whatever I was talking or something that he was paying attention to and was taking notice of it and writing it down. Whatever became of it later on, I don't know. But I think this psychology, matters, in dealing with people, that they want to be heard. Although, it's not that every time everybody says that gets done, but at least that they are heard of. So I thought that I just wanted to share with the group that I felt good about my own experience.
It's an excellent example, brother, Dr. Najib. Mashallah, may Allah reward you. It's exactly the case. And Dr. Najib, mashallah, you felt that. SubhanAllah, there's a generation turnover happening as well. The newer, younger generation, the Gen Zers that are entering the workforce, they're almost demanding that. They're almost now demanding that their voices are heard. And of course, to your point, I think everybody appreciates to feel heard and to feel like their opinions are valued. But with even the generational tide, that we need to do that even more, right? So it's got to become a part of the culture that we do that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. We cannot change everything based on everybody's input, but we should acknowledge and appreciate people's input. And then, inshallah, that point goes a long way as a part of our culture, for sure. Wonderful example. Anybody else want to share anything on the leadership front, the leadership focus for
Yes, brother.
sustaining talent? Yes, go ahead, brother
Shahid
Shah.
Bajwa, yes. Yes, I just typed in here social interaction, and that is relating to your point number 4, the wellness. I think because of so many pressures, I believe most of the people who are working in Muslim nonprofits are overworked, under-resourced, and it's just their passion which is driving them. And probably the very small number who are only doing it as a job. Most of them are doing it as a service. But yes, we need to do more. I think the leadership has to really engage with them on the social side for wellness. Wellness means making a phone call and not asking about the job. Or you did not submit the report last Wednesday and you did not submit, I waited for you and all that. Just a social call, asking about personal well-being, family's well-being. And then moreover, what I would suggest, like introducing a sentiments communication. Every person has good and bad sentiments, some good news on obituaries. So yes, some birthdays, I mean, maybe not 100% people would like to announce them, but yes, those who can, those who want to, the HR should be just 1, 2, 3 liner emails. Happy birthday, Brother Rami. It's good to know that you had your birthday today and all that, your wedding anniversaries, something more on the social side, something more on the sentiment side, so that it would balance the load of accountability versus the sense of ownership. I mean, then you feel part of a family.
Yes.
So
yes.
briefly, I think that's one thing I would suggest every organization to introduce that. And have a social meeting. I mean, strictly no business. Have a half an hour, maybe 1 hour a month with the staff. It may not be 100% staff, but you can do it in different groups and just social meeting. Ask one another, share jokes, their success stories, their failures in the last month, and what they want to suggest. So I think these are some of the points. Thank you.
I love that, Brother Shahid. I appreciate it. Wonderful thoughts. Family feel. Make everyone feel like they're part of family. Create that atmosphere in your organization. Absolutely. That will go such a long way. And subhanAllah, even, as we'll talk about, like, people will forever remember those moments. Even if they move on, they will remember, wow, the family feel of organization X, or when I worked in the community Y, like that, they felt that, and it'll definitely be different, even from a corporate background, mashallah. The last point, and I know we're a few minutes over time, and again, I appreciate everybody's engagement. It's such a hefty topic, so there's a lot to discuss. The last focus that I want to share, so how do we're talking about sustaining talent, particularly the best talent, right? And so the institutions, they have a certain focus, things that they need to do. Leaders, they have a certain focus and things that they need to do. And then the actual staff member, they have to do certain things as well. And I think actually, again, in a lot of our work, and alhamdulillah, working with dozens and dozens of organizations, I think one of the things in my own coaching of these individuals, or in our own conversations with across the leadership gamut and employee gamut, I feel like the staff themselves are not equipped to engage and sustain themselves. For them to figure out, how do I get through? Yeah, it's challenging to work for a Muslim nonprofit. Yeah, it's challenging to work for a mosque, a relief org, a civic right. It's challenging. But they kind of go into the challenge not ready. But like, no, you should do certain things to make sure that you can sustain. So to me, 4 quick tips. Number 1, I truly believe that we need to guide our key, critical, best staff on being clear on their purpose and plan of their life, their career. Where do they want to go? What are they trying to do? I think it's, Muslim nonprofits can't just be a job. It's got to be a purpose. But you've got to be clear on your purpose. You've got to be clear on your values. You've got to be clear on your intentions. You've got to be clear on what you want to do, where do you want to be? So I think taking the time to create that clarity for them, with them, is a very important step. We don't do that enough. The second, for sure, and of course, it's in a lot of our trainings, but we always talk to staff about having the growth mindset. The hardest work, you've got to be the most resourceful in nonprofit work. It's almost, I always say, it's like you've got to, every person that works in a Muslim nonprofit's got to be like a CEO. It's almost the case that across every organ, every level, doesn't matter what position you take, you've got to have like a CEO mindset. And I think a part of that is like, really what I love is the growth mindset concept, right? Like, hey, this is an opportunity. It's going to be challenging. A growth mindset embraces challenges. A growth mindset tries to learn from these challenges, these failures. A growth mindset is always open to improving, is always open to feedback, is always open to figuring it out. And I always say, look, you have to have that growth mindset to be successful in our work, particularly when you're in a critical role. Like if you're going to be an executive director or whatever level, right? That's really critical to the success of an organization, a nonprofit. You've got to have a growth mindset. It's got to be like you love the process, you love the work, and you understand like it's going to be a grind. You've got to have that mindset. I think the third thing, and this has helped me in my own personal career, is you can't wait for things to happen. You've got to have a proactive habit. You've got to say to yourself, look, my organization, my masjid is not training me. Well, you know what? I'm going to go get trained myself. I'm going to go read. I'm going to go study. I'm going to go figure it out myself. I'm going to be resourceful. Hey, our community is struggling to do X, Y, Z. They don't know how to do this. Hey, I'm going to find a network. I'm going to figure out a way to prioritize. I'm going to figure out a way to help them. Like when you are proactive in taking advantage of opportunities and priorities, actually, that's the best thing that we can do. Like we've got to get our staff in the habit to be proactive. Like, yeah, bring me the training. Tell me about it. Oh yeah, go ahead. You know what? Why don't you go take it? Hey, this is a book. Hey, this is an article. Hey, this is a webinar. Like we've got to help them be proactive in taking advantage of opportunities. And last but not least is staff have to be, I think somebody said it, I think it was Brother Qais, who's still on, may Allah reward you. He said, hey, look, as a staff member, you've got to speak up. You've got to own your engagement. Like you've got to speak up for yourself. You've got to say, hey, I need this. I want this. I'm struggling with this. You've got to kind of speak up for yourself. And I know sometimes that's not our temperament. Maybe it's not our personality. But honestly, we're not going to own our engagement. We're not going to own our well-being in a Muslim nonprofit if we don't own that. We've got to own our voice, and we've got to be able to speak up. And look, as long as I do my part, I do my best, and I communicate, of course, with akhlaq and adab and all of those important things. But I'm going to own my engagement. I'm going to communicate out loud. I'm going to, kind of speak up for myself. And I think that's really important. And by the way, on top of that, as I told an imam that we were working with recently, I told him, and I tell many leaders, you've also got to learn to say no. You've got to be the person that learns to say no. You got to learn to say no at the right time and the right way. Like when it's, hey, one brother told me, subhanAllah, just recently, like he had to miss his daughter's graduation for something, worked for a Muslim nonprofit. Like, he had to do something. I'm like, Akhi, look, you've got to learn to say no. You've got to be able to tell them, look, I love you. I'm going to try my best, blah, 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 blah. But no, I got to go to my daughter's graduation, right? Like, so you've got to kind of own your engagement as well. And I think our staff, they've got to, we got to equip them and empower them to feel like they own it as well. And I think those are just some of the things, again, with the purpose of how do we sustain our best talent? We want our folks to be able to speak up. We only have a few minutes. We have 3 minutes left. I really appreciate everybody. May Allah reward you all for your time and your efforts. I want to tell you all before we close and we kind of take last comments and questions, and I'm going to stick around for a few minutes afterward. What I want you to know is that this is what we do at Oak Tree Institute. Like, we're very focused on coming in and helping your organization in sustaining its staff, keeping them engaged, helping them be developed, training them, equipping them, supporting your institutional work. Like, we are very focused across that paradigm of like helping institutions, helping leaders, and helping staff. So if there's anything that you want to do, and specifically the ask here for today is, if you want us to help you with your talent management, if you want us to help you with your staff, your team, coaching, training, maybe an audit. We've done assessment work for organizations, pulse checks, engagement surveys, many of those kind of things that allow you to think about how do we sustain our best talent. Reach out to us. We'd love for you to reach out to us. We can just talk to you about, the things that we can potentially partner on and support you in. We're here to serve you all as leaders. And inshallah, we'd love for you to reach out to us and tell us how we can help you and your institutions. And finally, of course, and we'll take Q&A. I'll make sure to leave time for Q&A. But for those that might drop, we want you to know, please follow us on social. We have many podcasts, we have many YouTube videos that speak to the biggest challenges that our institutions, our communities facing at an organizational and leadership level. And inshallah, we're doing our best to be a thought leader in this space. We're trying to do our best actually right now and doing some research on Muslim institutions, particularly on turnover rates and how we can think more strategically about sustaining talent in Muslim organizations. So follow us, inshallah. This is, again, one webinar out of a monthly webinar series that we have. We hope and pray that you can, inshallah, join us for future sessions. I'm not done yet. I'll stick around for a few minutes, but if you have to drop, and I know we've taken quite a bit of time, we ask Allah to reward you all in these blessed days of the Hijjah. We ask Allah to bless our communities, to bless our organizations, to bless our staff, to bless our leaders. We ask Allah to elevate our ranks. And of course, the hard work is only accepted by Allah Azza wa Jal, but we hope and pray that Allah can allow us to see the fruits of our work in this life before we meet Him in the next. Barakallahu feekum, jazakallah khairan. Have a wonderful evening. If you need to drop, I'll stick around if you have time. We're going to do Q&A right now. I'll stick around for the next 15, 20 minutes to take any questions.
Yeah, Brother Hamid, I shared my phone number there. If you'd like to learn how we can help your organization, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I would love to have a conversation.
Jazakallah khairan, Zawad. Thank you very much. Hey, quick, can I ask a question? I will take the opportunity to ask a question.
Yes, go ahead, Brother Hamid.
Rami, where do you see, like, let's say, mid-sized masjid? Like, I think you're focusing on like a large variety of Muslim organizations, but masajid play a fairly important role in our in the Muslim community. So I'll ask that question. Like, where do you see a typical mid-sized Muslim like a masjid? Are they a masjid first, or are they an Islamic, are they a center or an Islamic center where prayer is one of their services that they provide, but other than that, they provide, anything from counseling to the Sunday school, to Islamic school, to hifz, to halakat? How do you distinguish where some people are just focused on, like, I need my prayer space and that needs to be the best, versus, hey, there's a lot of other activities or roles that we have? So, I think you understand my question, but,
yes,
probably I didn't articulate well.
No, yes, excellent, Brother Hamid. A great question. And alhamdulillah, we work with many masajid, Brother Hamid, small, medium, and large. Alhamdulillah, like that's one major bucket that we serve. I think, Brother Hamid, the community that you're in probably is going to be the best gauge of where they should be. What we've kind of done is we kind of have a tiered system of where we feel most masjids in the country are. So there definitely are tiers. And generally, we bucket them across 3 tiers. If you're at a smaller or mid-sized tier, the amount of activity and programs you have is definitely going to vary from a bigger institution. But that amount is going to really be based on your community, your capacity, your board, your volunteer base, your staff base, your community base, your donor base, right? We do come in and do a lot of strategy work for many masajid. We've done some really big projects for some big masajid on strategy, on operational management, on the programs and services. So it's definitely something that we can come in and kind of support you. I would say, though, the answer is going to come from your leadership team, Akhil Hamid. Like, you guys are going to need to determine where are we now? What do we have? What are we doing? And what do we want to do? What are we not serving? What do we want our focus to be? And how can we create some of the programs and initiatives around that? So that's generally what I would suggest that mosques, particularly smaller and medium-sized, do.
Okay, I'll try not to hog more time, but like 30
No
seconds.
problem.
I think in one of your podcasts, I think it was either you or somebody from Oaktree. I mean, you mentioned just the leadership team, but I think you also mean like pretty much like all the stakeholders in the community. It could be
Yes.
like the regular attendees, the people who are active. So it's more than the leadership team who would, just adding that because I think I heard somewhere in one of your podcasts. But yeah.
Yes. So when we do Hamid, and reach out to us in Ta'ala, we'd love to kind of connect with you on your mosque. But we always tell masjids, look, masjids, you guys cannot operate like companies. You have too many stakeholders that need to be involved in the process. So yes, typically we'd say, look, the boards need to be involved. We would say critical and key staff, particularly like your imam, key leadership needs to be involved. Your donor base needs to be involved, because particularly your key donors need to be involved. And obviously there's your key volunteers, your key members, your key community stakeholders, they need to be involved. So actually a masjid's strategy or plan should include all 4 of those buckets in the room, right? It shouldn't be like a board of 7 people just doing everything or thinking that they know everything. Ideally, that's how we like to facilitate strategy work or training across different, particularly the masjid and center spaces. Reach out to us, Brother Hamid. I'd love to kind of have a deeper conversation with you on your masjid, inshallah. Brother Qais, I saw in the chat that you had a question. Go ahead, Akhi. Akhi Qais, can you come off of mute? Do you still have a question? Okay. Anyone else have a question? MashaAllah, quite a number of folks still sticking around. Great to see you all. Anybody else have any questions?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Brother Rami. This is Rehan Ahmad from Helping Hand. How are you doing?
Good to see you, brother. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, doing good. Jazakumullah khairan for you. Beautiful talk. The question about that you mentioned that after every campaign, give some relaxation to the staff, right? But at the same time, especially when the organization gets someone from the higher level, from the corporate, and they are looking staff as 8 hours, and they are pushing as at least they are working for 8 hours, and they could keep asking about, they're pushing and say, hey, where you staff every day, 8 hours work. How you can maintain this challenge and like maintain this thing that is a nonprofit, a little work differently than other corporate area, and we know we're not at the 8 hours. When the time comes, we're like 10, 12, 16 hours. And when time passes, like we need some time for ourselves, for the family. We're not like every day we're coming for the 8 hours. So how you can help, and you can help us understand this mentality, inshallah.
Yeah, that's a great question. A very deep question, Akhi Rehan. A very complex, challenging question. I think there's so I'll speak about it because subhanAllah, I was just reading it in preparation for this. I was reading a bunch of articles, and one of them was around kind of how management has changed post-COVID. Because really the workplace has evolved recently, right? Given work from home and hybrid work, and right, like the rethinking of management in a new world, in a new way, is really important. And a part of that, finally, the article was specifically saying, like how there isn't this, even in corporate America, there isn't the clock in factor anymore. Like it's not really like the mindset anymore. It's very much a results-driven kind of workplace. So I think Rehan, I think first and foremost, obviously, if it's a challenge that you're feeling, and particularly I know you're, I think you're still, mashallah, regional director, I would communicate that directly with leadership. Like I would get leadership in the room and decide on like what we want our culture to be. What is our management culture? What are we trying to do? And really, there's a reality, particularly for, I know, obviously the relief orgs, it's very seasonal, right? Like you said, Ramadan, you're probably working 26 hours a day. I don't know how many hours a day. Like, there's a different level, right? Udhiyah time. Like there are moments where we are overextending. So we cannot naturally say like, hey, look, you're going to do all of that. And then there isn't like, as the Prophet ﷺ says, there's like this zaman al-raha, like there has to be time where you kind of relax. Like it's a natural fluctuation. I think that has to be communicated directly with leadership. Yes, so we're not saying, Brother Shahid, great to your point. Like there has to be time logs. We've got to log our time. We got to make sure that we know what projects time is going to. We're perfectly fine with that. But the over management, I think, particularly in a lot of times in a result-based work, like we've got to figure out a way around that culture. Now, should we have times where, again, we're logging or we're doing things? Yes. But if I'm working Saturdays and Sundays and Fridays and I'm traveling and then, I'm taking a Tuesday off, and like, I've got to let my department, my team, my leadership know, like, this is our way of work. And let's manage accordingly to that. And I think that's will honestly require just a lot of communication, honest back and forth, and the ability to understand what makes success for us as every organization is different. So I definitely would encourage that.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Rami, for answering that. Honestly, we could keep you for rest of the night. Each one of us has a lot of, I'm sure those who left, they also had a lot of questions.
Yes.
But I think, yes, I'll have to take leave, inshallah, until we see you the next time. And we need to see you more often, inshallah. We missed you.
Thank you,
Jazakallah khair for your wonderful time.
Wonderful
and remember me in your prayers. Remember our organization, and you're always welcome. Contact our organization for more training, inshallah. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Everybody. I'll wrap up unless anybody has any kind of last burning questions. Again, mashallah, may Allah reward y'all for sticking around this late. Any final questions?
Brother Rami.
May Allah reward you all. May Allah give you all the strength and the barakah, and accept from us all our good deeds. Eid Mubarak. If I don't, I'm sure I'll be communicating with you all for Eid, but Eid Mubarak to you and your families, inshallah. Hope to see you all soon.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Assalamu alaikum.